In this video, I will share some strategies for reading with your child at home. So before they start reading to you, ask them to tell you about what they've read so far, the author, the plot, if they've read something similar, what their impressions are of the story, if they have any questions about what they've read or anything interesting that they've noticed. And then when you're reading together, one strategy you can use is echo reading. So the adult would read a couple of sentences first and model fluency, punctuation awareness, and read it really expressively so that when the child then echoes it back, they're building those strategies themselves. Another thing you can do is to switch over each sentence. Sometimes people do it a page at a time, but I think if you ask the child to swap with you when it gets to the end of the sentence, it can really help you to see how aware they are of the punctuation and of when they need to pause, and just their sentence awareness. So if I were to stop here, does it really bite? Then we could talk about, even though a question mark would be the end of the sentence, because it's speech and it's in these inverted commas, we continue to hear. And there's a lot of punctuation in this sentence, but it's that full stop that is telling us it's the end of a sentence. While you're reading, you can also look out for language features like similes, onomatopoeia, and sentence structure as well. So, for example, this question sentence, and then fronted adverbials is something that we've been working on. So if your child can recognise here, looking up through his tears, David saw the handsome face and curling hair of a boy about 6 years his senior. So here, looking up through his tears, this is a fronted adverbial, and we can tell because it's an adverbial phrase at the beginning of the sentence. It has a comma after it. And a fronted adverbial is also a subordinate clause, so it doesn't make sense on its own, looking up through his tears. So then we can see that's not the main clause of the sentence. This is the main clause, and we can tell that because that part makes sense on its own. In terms of comprehension, we can remember the different question styles that we look at with the acronym VIPERS. So V is for vocabulary. If a child was stuck, for example, they were unsure of what ferocious meant, here you ferocious dog, I would ask them to look at the context around it to try to figure out what the word might mean. But I would give them the definition. I wouldn't just ask them to guess if they didn't know. And then I would try to encourage them to apply it in different contexts. And also to replace it with a synonym. Okay, so I've told you what ferocious means. What other word could be in this sentence instead? What other word could we replace it with? Could we say, here, you vicious dog? And if they were able to come up with something like that, I would know that they understood the meaning there. I is for inference. So that's being able to, not just simple retrieval, but being able to infer characters' feelings, why things have happened, etc. P is for prediction. E is for explanation. So that's just having that discussion all the time with children about what they're reading. Not constantly so that it interrupts the flow of reading, but just conversationally as it comes up. R is for retrieval. So what type of animal is on this page would be a really simple retrieval question. And finally, S is summary, which children do find really difficult. So it's really important that they have that experience. And we do use it a lot in life and in other subjects to be able to just sum up in 20 words or less, maybe what happened in an episode of a TV show or what happened in the story, or even something that happened to them. Challenge them to just explain it in a few words. It's difficult because generally we're encouraging children to elaborate and to add detail, but in this type of question, we need them to be succinct and be able to find that main point. When you're uploading comments to Boom Reader, you can comment on the child's interest, their expression, fluency, their confidence, also their stamina for reading. Do they only want to read a couple of pages or do they want to keep going? How is their pace? Are they rushing? Are they pausing for punctuation? Are they reading confidently and fluently? Have they made any comments about their own response to the book? Do they want to talk about it with you or with their family or friends? Do they self-correct when they're reading? Do they make a mistake and then go back when they've realised that it doesn't make sense and self-correct? Do they use the context or maybe pictures to predict what's coming next? And do they comment on or pay attention to the structure of the language and the sentence structures?